Hands down, one of my most favorite topics. We're talking about real estate investing through home ownership. So today I get to talk seriously about one of my favorite topics, which is investing in real estate through home ownership. And what's really great about this concept is it's a way to kind of tippy-toe into the investing world without necessarily starting out like a full-time committed investor. In fact, I know I got a lot of young people watching this channel. It doesn't matter what age you are. What I'm about to share is a strategy you can do. This is what I did to get my launch in real estate, and so I think it's really smart and intelligent. To do that, we got to understand the difference between a home and a house. Can you spot the difference? When you buy a place that you call home, there's an emotional attachment to it, right? It's like, I want it to be just right for me and my family. I want the right location with the school district that I want, and I want to have the right kind of neighborhood, and we're all looking for what we would consider to be the best home. A house is different. A house is this idea of what's going to make the most sense with the numbers. Can I buy it advantageously? Can I use this to my advantage? You need to understand that a house is the biggest commodity that the average person will ever buy, which means that it is where you can leverage the most capital and technically make the most money. That's why I do it in relation, instead of doing a lot of different things. And so if you want to know how to advantageously get into home ownership and actually have that house be a place that you call home, but also make you some money, it's because you want to find a house that meets both of those criteria. Now understand that if you were just an investor, you would generally have to put 20% down on buying this house. But if it's a home, there's so many bank programs out there called first-time homeowner, and your first-time home buying options are often a 3 to 5% down payment. Now, just look at the difference here. There's a massive discrepancy. If we're talking about a $200,000 home, for example, then 3% is going to be $6,000. 20% is going to be $40,000. And I don't know about you, but there's a lot of people that are like, I can come up with $6,000 with some savings a lot faster and easier than I can $40,000. And this is what creates this awesome way for I'd like to be an investor, but I'm not in a position to actually move towards that by actually starting with a home. In disguise, it's also a house. It actually is filled with money, but it's also a place you can call home. Let me tell you about my first house. First house that I did was this tiny little basic rambler, and I bought this particular house, just to give you some numbers here. This is a house that had a value of $150,000, and I purchased it for $110,000. Now, do you see the discrepancy there? There is a $40,000 discrepancy, which meant that when I actually bought this house, on paper at least, I became what? $40,000 richer. Now, just for the skeptic out there that's like, Kris, $40,000 on paper, who cares? Well, I'll tell you why you should care. My house had a little basement apartment, and I rented out that basement apartment. Now, my original mortgage was $800 a month when I bought this. And I bought it with 3% down payment. So I basically brought $3,500 to the table. And that's all I came out of pocket to step into $40,000. Now, is that $40,000 worth anything if just on paper? Let me show you. First of all, the $40,000 difference here meant that instead of a $1,200 payment or an $1,100 payment, my payment was $800. So do I benefit from $40,000 of equity of buying it below market? Absolutely. The rental from the basement was pulling in $500 a month. So guess what that did? That meant that what I was really paying out the gate was $300 a month. Now, I was renting a hole in the ground for $400 a month. So the ability to buy a house here and actually only pay a net of $300 was a cool deal, because then it got gooder. Check this out. A matter of months later, I went back to the bank and I said, bank, I've got all this equity. And you know what they did? They did what's called a refinance. That's where they said, wow, well, based on all of that equity, let's do a couple of things here. Number one, let's go ahead and lower your payment. They lowered my payment to $500 a month. And two, I got a home equity line of credit, HELOC, for $18,500. Let me tell you what that means. It meant that, first of all, the moment I moved in this house with only $3,500, which to me was a lot of money. I was a college kid. I wasn't always working full time, and it took me 14 months for me and my wife to save that money up. But when we actually bought this house, we went to only paying $300 a month. 6 months later, only went to paying nothing a month. And the home equity line was the bank's way of saying, hey, here's a checkbook tied to the equity in your home, and you can spend $18,500 on whatever you want. And I did. I bought a BMW on eBay. I drove it around, tried to sell it, make a few $1,000s. By the time I sold it, it was like driving the car with $400 a month payments. It really didn't work out. And I said, you know what? This real estate thing really worked out for me. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy a home. So that's what I did. I went and I bought my next house. This house bought my next house. So all I needed was $3,500 to get in the game. And then in the end, I was able to start my portfolio going. Later, my wife and I moved again. We bought a house with a basement apartment, bought a house with $30,000 of equity. We lived in it for free. And then when we built this house, we built this 10,000 square foot house, and we had so much money that we were making in real estate that we didn't care because all of our other real estate was paying for this house. So it didn't have a basement apartment. And so friends, this whole idea of getting into the real estate investing game, all you got to do is be willing to take a home and make room for also buying a house. And if you can do the two at the same time, you can get yourself some equity. It'll lower the price. Later, I moved out of this house. I didn't sell it right away. Guess what I did? I put someone else in it, and that person was paying $1,500 a month. My payment was still $500. I was renting it out for $1,500. Guess who was making $1,000 a month on this house? I was. I felt pretty smart, but it all was possible. In fact, with all the money I made on this by the time I sold it, if you were to say, wow, Kris, you made $65,000 by the time you sold it off of a $3,500 investment, I felt awesome. Now, if I had put 20% down on this house, just want to throw this out there. If I had put 25 grand down and turned it into 65 grand, that still is a 300%, 200% return. It still would have been awesome. But getting that 3% down or 5% down makes it even more awesome on your ROIs. And it's how a lot of people accidentally become investors and get in the game. What I would say is final advice, if you're going to go out there and buy real estate and you want to invest, but you don't have a home yet or you're willing to move, then buy a home that is also a house. It's also an investment. It's got the numbers that add up, make sense. You can put a little bit of money down and get ahead way faster in life. Hey, thank you for watching today's video. Hopefully you can feel the passion, the excitement, and that the information was really useful for you. You know, one of the reasons why people will subscribe to this channel is because they want to know, how do you get into the game of real estate? How do you invest successfully? How do you think and cultivate a mindset for success when it comes to everything related to money? Limitless Wealth TV is all about that. So if you're not, please go ahead and subscribe, ring the bell, and we'll look forward to getting you more juicy information on those topics.